Hello dear YouTube, dear friends. Today I will show my game against Benjamin Bok. Game just ended 20-30 minutes ago. So let's go. Yes, I was expecting mainly d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, and here d5 or bishop b4 I was planning to play. I wasn't sure which line exactly to play, but mainly I was expecting knight f3, d5, and g3 Catalan. And here because my opponent Benjamin Bok yesterday played against Mendonca, so Leon played if I'm not mistaken bishop b4, bishop d2, bishop e7, bishop g2, short castle, and knight bd7 or c6. Yes, bishop e7 is another option. D takes c is also possible. Yes, my opponent surprised me with his first move, knight f3. I played d5 and here g3. Last couple of years I was practicing here mainly g6, bishop g7, bishop g2, bishop g7, and here black is aiming for e5 ideas. So if short castle, then e5. Anton Korobov played me short castle, e5, d3. So d4 is another option. Knight f6, short castle, and here white is having c3, c4. David Howell played during last chess Olympiad c4. So I was already over the board thinking about what to play, because probably my opponent came well prepared. And that's why I decided to follow the steps of Kirill Alexeyenko. And I remember his game in candidates tournament against Sergey. It was not a candidates tournament. Probably it was Isle of Man. Yes, knight d7 again. Black is trying to play e5. So d4 stopping e5 and knight b6. So it looks a little bit weird, like we are not completing our development and just developing knight, spending and wasting 2 tempes. Yes, but we are trying to stop any c4 ideas. Later on, if I'm not mistaken, Alireza also played against Wojtaszek. I think in that game knight c3, bishop f5, knight h4 was played, or maybe a4 or a5, then knight c3. So my opponent started with a4. Of course, he does threaten always to go a5, so I played a5, stopping all kind of a5 ideas. He played bishop g2, I played bishop f5. Yes, if knight h4, there is bishop e4 always. So he played knight c3, and here I took some minutes to understand how should I continue. Because if I play knight f6, white wants to go knight h4, and my bishop does not have enough good squares. For example, bishop e4, then knight takes e4 always comes. I don't want to go bishop g6 and allow opponent to trade his knight with my bishop. So if bishop g4, always h3 comes, bishop h5, g4. Here I had instead of knight f6, e6 move, and the point is being to go bishop g4, because h3, bishop h5, and you don't have g4 because knight is hanging on h4. Yes, I was thinking about queen d3 with the ideas to go e4. I wasn't sure about e6. Yes, I played h6, but I'm sure that e6 is also a very decent move. But at least not bad. I don't think h6 also is bad. So the point is, whenever the opponent goes knight h4, we just retreat our bishop to h7. So here Bok took maybe close to 1 hour thinking, and probably it was too much, and he played e4. Yes, very ambitious move. But I just took it. So knight e5, he could go knight h4, for example, bishop h7. Yes, knight takes e4, but here I have some weird g5 move, and for example knight f3, e4, knight is hanging. If knight c5, then g takes h is there. Yes, he could take bishop e4. I don't think black has any real problems. So my opponent played knight e5. Of course, his idea was to go knight e5. Now he wants to take with the other knight on e4. I played knight f6. He played short castle, and I played e6. And another critical moment of the game, black is ready to complete his development with bishop e7, bishop d6, or bishop b4, depends how does white continue. If rook e1, for example, bishop b4, pinning the knight. Yes, I think my opponent played very ambitiously with queen e2. And of course he wants to take with the knight and get more or less good position. I had a very safe option, bishop d6, and if knight e4, let's say I can go, for example, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e5, d takes c, knight takes e4, queen takes e4, and I don't think white has anything I don't think black has also any issues, any problems. It should be around equal. I was thinking about queen d5 to play, but then I started thinking about queen d4 move, and didn't see any clear refutation of queen d4. So the point is, black is taking second pawn. My opponent went knight b5. If bishop f4, I was thinking to play bishop d6. So here, if queen b5, I have at least c6, and knight f d7 is also very good for black. So c6, let's say if you take, takes, knight f d7, knight b5, and something like queen c5, black shouldn't have any issues. Yes, if you go bishop f4, then I was thinking about bishop d6. If knight b5, there is queen c5, and any of rook comes to d1, black just plays queen c5. So this was my kind of main line I considered. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop e5, queen e5, there is bishop c6. So I think knight e4, queen e4, and short castle. Black is just pawn up, and queen b7 is not hanging because bishop e5 is there. I think black is just pawn up without much problems. So my opponent went knight b5, and here I had another two interesting moves. I could take on e5, and another move was queen d8. Yes, my idea is just to play bishop d6. I didn't play it because of rook d1, bishop d6, and here knight d6, c takes d, and queen b5. So this was too complicated to calculate and understand, because I cannot really play any of my knights to d7. d6 pawn is hanging. If I go king f8 or king e7, there is b3, bishop a3 ideas. So I was very much worried here of my position. So that's why I took bishop f4, queen c5 is the only move, knight c7, and here I had a few interesting options. I went eventually king e7. I could also play king d7. I did not play it because of rook fd1. And now, yes, king c8 I think is the only move, because if you go knight fd5, there is knight takes a8, and knight takes a8, there is c4. So that's why you should go king c8, which allows knight takes, and I was very much worried about my king. And my pieces are not perfectly placed, at least some of them. So I was very much worried that some rook a3 ideas might work. I even saw such a move like rook a3, bishop g4, queen d2, bishop takes d1, rook c3. It was too complicated, because it's not much important how much material you are up if opponent gets your king. And here I think white is somehow getting, or very close to get, my king. So that's why I eventually played king e7. Another idea was to go king d8 and then maybe go knight fd7. So I played king e7, knight takes a8, knight takes a8. And here my opponent played rook a3. Very tempting move, of course. I was mainly considering queen b5. The point is, if you take queen b5, a takes b, then a5 pawn is hanging and b6, b4 is there. So I was planning to play b6, and if queen c5, b takes c, bishop d2, something like knight d5, and if bishop takes a5, g5, and then bishop g7 ideas. So I thought that at least I'm not worse. Yes, here white had also queen a6, queen b7 ideas, but I wasn't much worried because knight c7 and knight fd5 I saw. So after rook a3, I played knight d5 to stop rook c3. My opponent took bishop e4. Yes, here it's very tempting to take on f4, and maybe it really works. But I really wanted to keep my knight on d5. So I took bishop e4, takes, and f5. I think more or less it was good. Queen e5, I played king f7. So if I consolidate my position, then black is just much better, close to winning. The problem is my king. My pieces are, some of them, at least rook doesn't do anything on h8. So my opponent played queen b8, I played knight b6, if queen b7, bishop e7. He did play rook b3, I played queen c6. Yes, and here he played bishop e3 move. Yes, I played rook g8, bishop takes b6, I took with the knight. So if bishop d6, if not bishop d6, there is queen a7. If bishop c5, there is bishop d8, some weird bishop d8 move. So that's why I took with the knight. If queen a7, there is bishop b4 always. So, and here c4 isn't really working because I always can go knight b4 at least. So takes, my opponent played queen e5. I played bishop b4. He played c3, I played knight d7. My idea is to play knight c5, so that's why queen e3 was played. Knight c5, there is c takes b. I went bishop e7. He played rook b5. I played b6. He played b4. I played rook a8. Yes, he played rook e1 with the ideas to take rook f5, but rook f5 I just take. I can even go bishop f6. So takes, rook takes a4. If rook f5, he takes f, queen e7, there is king g8. So my opponent played this. We got something similar. Yes, it looks a little bit scary, but king h7. Otherwise, my knight would go to f8 or f6. Yes, h4 was played. I was thinking about rook d1, but here rook a7 should be enough with the queen e5 ideas. So my opponent played h4. I went queen d5, h5, trying to go queen g6, rook e8. But even there, I have just knight f8. I played rook a8, check, king g8, takes, knight f8, b5. I played queen e6, queen d8, king f7, and here Bok resigned. Yes, very complicated game. Let's briefly check with the computer to see what happened. Yes, let's go back. I think already starting from move e4 we can check. And let's see. Yes, knight f6, knight h4, e6, or e6, knight h4, bishop g4. Because the way I played, difference is not much. No, actually it shows h6. It shows h6. Wow. h6. Yes, here of course many different moves are possible. White does not have any problems, and probably black as well. Yes, knight d2, e4 ideas are there. I'm getting some very weird version of Caro-Kann. Yes, knight e5, knight f6, short castle e6, knight d2, knight f6. Yes, you can go short castle e6, knight d2, knight f6, e4, probably d takes c. Yes, e4 was played, and here computer likes bishop takes e4. Wow, I didn't even seriously consider bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, d takes e, knight e5, knight f6. So I took with the pawn, so knight e5 was played. I went knight f6. And here, I saw this f3 move, but always I thought I'm just going e3 and then e6, c6. It shouldn't be very bad, but f3, e3, short castle, white had slightly better position. So short castle e6. Yes, and already here black is just better, much better. And queen takes d4. Yes, bishop d6 is possible, but yes, knight b5 my opponent played, queen b5 there is. Yes, if bishop f4, bishop d6, rook fd1, queen c5, knight e4, bishop e4, queen b5, c6. Yes, and did I have knight? Yes, knight d7 is also there. So he went knight b5. I took bishop f4, bishop g4. I saw this idea, but didn't really understand. I'm just taking control over d1 square. Yes, bishop g5, g4 would have been stronger. So this and king e7 I found. Yes, takes, and I was thinking about queen b5, but it's not much. I can take knight b6, rook a5. So my opponent played rook a3. I played knight d5 to stop. He took. Yes, takes f5. He went queen e5. He played this. Yes, if takes bishop e7. I played this. Yes, rook g8 is also fine. Takes. Bishop b4, knight d7. Yes, maybe not the strongest, but still enough. Yes, here I was really very much worried because I felt that my position is winning and didn't want to allow any rook f5 sacrifices. But yes, in the end, I realized that nothing is really working for my opponent. Yes, rook d1 is not working, so I played this, queen d5, h5 this, so I just lost. More or less very decent game. Yes, of course, already before going e4 my opponent burned almost 1 hour. And later on he was always in time trouble, and starting I guess from let me show you, starting from here he had already maybe about 1 minute, so he was just blitzing, and I had more than maybe 25-30 minutes. Yes. Thank you very much, dear YouTube, dear friends, dear viewers. Yes, Spring Chess Classic round robin, round 6, my game against Bog Benjamin. Thank you very much.